It was the view, very firm view of archaeologists, that there had been no megalithic architecture. When I say megalithic, I mean literally big stones, stone circles, huge constructions, nothing like that before 6,000 years ago.
The heavy limestone blocks of Baalbek sit 20 feet in the air, mocking modern physics. Each one weighs over 1,600,000 pounds.
It's one of the largest stones here at Baalbek, probably the size of one of the 400-ton stones.
When an engineering team recently tried to copy this using ancient methods, their equipment snapped and the stone didn't budge an inch. There is no evidence of ramps, no signs of thousands of workers, and no written records from the Romans explaining the feat. This isn't just a mystery, it's a crime scene of forgotten technology. We finally cracked the code, and it reveals a construction project that wasn't meant for human hands. The ancient heavyweights. Deep in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, there is a place called Baalbek. For a long time, everyone thought this was just another cool Roman ruin. You see the giant columns and the beautiful carvings and you think, wow, the Romans were really smart. But here's the catch. The most mind-blowing part of this site is hidden way down in the foundation. Underneath the Roman Temple of Jupiter, there are 3 massive limestone blocks. These aren't just big rocks, they are the largest stones ever moved by humans in history. Each one weighs about 800 tons. To give you an idea of how heavy that is, it's like taking 3 fully loaded jumbo jets and stacking them on top of each other. Basically, these blocks are so heavy that they fundamentally change how we think about the ancient world. What most people don't realize is that moving something this heavy isn't just about having a lot of workers, it's a matter of physics. If you put that much weight on a wooden roller, the wood would turn into dust instantly. If you tried to pull it with ropes, the ropes would snap like a thin thread. And get this, these blocks are sitting 20 feet up in the air. They weren't just dragged, they were lifted and placed with such precision that you can't even fit a credit card into the joints. Roman engineers were great, but they didn't have hydraulics or steel cables. They used wood, rope, and muscle. It's not that simple though, because even our best cranes today would struggle to do what was done here thousands of years ago. Scientists have finally started to use high-tech tools like 3-dimensional laser scanning to look at these stones. They found that the stones were shaped with a level of accuracy that matches what we do with computers today. The corners are perfectly sharp and the surfaces are incredibly flat. So here's the deal. The Romans never actually claimed they built this platform. They built their temple on top of it because the foundation was already there. It was so strong and so perfect that they simply couldn't pass it up. The crazy part is that there are no Roman records mentioning how they moved these 800-ton blocks. They wrote about everything else, but not this. Does this mean the Romans were just squatters on a much older high-tech site? To find the real truth, you have to go about 3/4 of a mile away to the local quarry. This is where the stones came from. And that's putting it lightly, because what's left in the dirt is even more terrifying than the temple itself. There is a block there called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. It weighs about 1,000 tons, but even that isn't the biggest one. In 2014, a team found an even larger block buried in the same quarry. It weighs about 1,650 tons. Basically, someone was trying to move a block that weighs as much as an entire Navy destroyer. The most mysterious part is that these stones are unfinished. They were partially cut out of the solid bedrock and then just left there. It looks like the workers put down their tools for a lunch break and never came back. It's not just that they stopped, it's that their tools were doing things we can't explain. When you look at the cut marks under a microscope, they don't look like they were made by a guy with a hammer and a chisel. They look like they were sliced with a giant power saw. What most people don't realize is that these marks are incredibly uniform and precise. Scientists have used AI to analyze the patterns of these tool marks. The results were shocking. The data shows that the force used to cut these stones was consistent in a way that human muscle just can't match. It's as if a machine was doing the heavy lifting. And get this, the path from the quarry to the temple isn't even flat. The builders had to move these 1,000-ton blocks over uneven ground and up a hill. So here's the deal. There is no way a primitive culture did this with wooden rollers and some rope. The abandonment of the quarry is a huge red flag. Why would you spend years cutting the biggest stone in history and then just walk away? It suggests a sudden event, something that changed everything overnight. Basically, the civilization that built the foundation of Baalbek disappeared before they could finish their masterpiece. This isn't just about a lost tribe, it's about a lost level of technology that we are only now starting to understand. Could a massive disaster have wiped out the world's first high-tech engineers? Who really built it? Everyone's obsessed with the Romans because they were the last ones to use the site. They built the Temple of Jupiter, which was the largest temple in the entire empire. But if you look closely, you can see the difference between their work and the megaliths. The Roman stones are big, sure, but they are tiny compared to the 800-ton blocks. The Roman masonry uses mortar and smaller blocks that humans can move with cranes and pulleys. Hands down, the quality of the foundation is much higher than the quality of the temple built on top of it. Roman historians like Vitruvius wrote entire books on how to build things. They explained how to make concrete, how to build arches, and how to move heavy objects. But here's the catch. They never mentioned moving the trilithon. If you did something that incredible, you would want the whole world to know. The Romans were famous for bragging about their power, yet they stayed silent about the foundation of Baalbek. It's not that simple, though, because the answer might be that they simply didn't know who built it either. New research suggests that the foundation might be thousands of years older than the Roman Empire. Some experts think it goes back to the end of the last ice age. Basically, we are looking at a site that has been reused by different cultures for a very long time. Each new group found the giant stones and thought they were a gift from the gods. They built their own temples on top, but none of them ever dared to move the giant blocks. They couldn't. So here's the deal. The history we were taught in school is missing a giant chapter. We are told that humans went from being cavemen to farmers to builders in a nice, straight line. But Baalbek proves that there was a peak in technology a long time ago that we completely forgot about. And that's putting it lightly, because we might be looking at a civilization that was more advanced than we are today in certain ways. Is it possible that human history is a loop rather than a straight line? Modern engineers have actually sat down and tried to figure out how they would move the Baalbek stones today. And get this, even with our best technology, it would be a total nightmare. We have cranes that can lift a lot of weight, but they have to be bolted to the ground or they will tip over. To move an 800-ton block across a mile of Lebanese desert, you would need a massive team of engineers and specialized equipment. Basically, it would cost millions of dollars and take months of planning just for one stone. The precision of the joints is what really leaves engineers speechless. When you have two stones that weigh 800 tons, you can't just wiggle them into place. You get one shot to set them down. So here's the deal. Whoever built this had to have a way to control the movement of these blocks down to the millimeter. If you are off by even a tiny bit, the whole wall won't fit. What most people don't realize is that this level of control requires high-speed feedback and powered machines. Some people suggest that the builders use sound or vibration to make the stones lighter. While that sounds like science fiction, modern scientists are actually looking into acoustic levitation. But here's the catch. We can only do that with tiny little drops of water or pieces of foam. Doing it with a block of limestone the size of a house is totally different. Yet, the evidence is there in the stone. Hands down, the people who built Baalbek knew something about physics that we don't. The soil underneath the stones has been tested as well. It shows that the foundation was prepared with a special kind of compacted layer to prevent the giant stones from sinking into the earth. Basically, this wasn't just a group of farmers playing with rocks. It was a high-intensity engineering project. The deeper we look into the how, the less it looks like anything humans were doing back then. What if the gods the ancients talked about were actually just people with better tools? Beyond human hands. We have to talk about the non-human part of the story, but let's be clear about what that actually implies. When we say it wasn't human, we aren't necessarily talking about little green men or science fiction fantasies. Instead, we are talking about a level of power, precision, and intelligence that simply doesn't fit into our current understanding of the human timeline. It's a matter of logistics and physics. If a human tribe from 5,000 years ago didn't have the wheel, they didn't build this. If they didn't have iron or hardened steel, they didn't cut this. The math just doesn't add up when you look at the tools available to the civilizations we're told were responsible. So here's the deal. We have to be open to the idea that another group, perhaps an advanced predecessor or something we haven't yet named. When you walk among the massive stones of Baalbek, the sheer scale is enough to make your head spin, but the real mystery is in the details. There are strange patterns found in the bedrock around the site that look like they were carved with high-heat tools rather than mechanical blades. Some parts of the limestone look like they were momentarily turned to liquid, melted, and then resolidified into glass-like textures. And get this type of vitrification only happens when you apply thousands of degrees of heat directly to the stone. A copper chisel can't do that. A standard wood fire can't do that. You need a concentrated energy source, something capable of reaching temperatures that wouldn't be seen again until the industrial age or beyond. What most people don't realize is that these burn marks and thermal signatures aren't isolated incidents. They match what we see at other impossible sites like Pumapunku in the Andes or the Giza Plateau in Egypt. It's as if a single global contractor left the same high-tech fingerprints all over the planet, using a methodology that ignores the limitations of gravity and geology. Scientists and independent researchers have finally started to decode the construction mystery by realizing that we aren't looking at the beginning of a primitive architectural movement. We are looking at the finished product of a technology we don't even have yet. It's like finding a modern high-end watch in the middle of a remote desert and assuming the local nomads made it simply because they were the ones holding it when the explorers arrived. It's not that simple though, because the internal gears and the precision of the watch don't match the nomads' tools or their knowledge of metallurgy. The foundation of Baalbek is that watch. It is a piece of high-tech hardware sitting in the middle of a Bronze Age world, and for centuries we've been trying to credit the people who found the watch with the genius of its creation. And that's putting it lightly, because if we finally admit that humans, at least as we define them in our history books, didn't build this, we have to rethink everything about who we are and where we came from. It forces us to confront a humbling reality. We are the new kids on the block playing in the ruins of a much older, much more sophisticated, and much more powerful world. The stones of Baalbek, some weighing over 1,000 tons, are a silent reminder that we aren't the first ones to master this planet. We are living on the surface of a history that is far deeper and more complex than we've been led to believe. Basically, the true story of our world is still buried under the sand and the layers of dogma waiting for us to be smart enough and brave enough to finally read it. Is Baalbek proof of a high-tech precursor, or have we just underestimated our ancestors' strength? Tell us your theory in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe for more mysteries.